Our vision statement is to distribute innovation and partnership in our communities for generations. And we recast that a couple of years ago, and every word mattered. Distribute is what we do. Innovation is what we strive for, and partnership is what we are proud of being. We intend to do that in our communities. It's where we work, where we live, where we grow up and raise our families. And we intend to do it for generations. This isn't about the past. It's about continuing forward.
Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Pay It Forward podcast. I am one of your hosts, Austin Seward, along with my co-host, Keegan Walls. And today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Kathryn Poehling Seymour. Katie is the president and CEO of First Companies. It's a family of companies supplying building materials to contractors and industrial customers. The trades in general is a very male-dominated industry, so we're really excited to have Katie here today, who is a female, fifth-generation female leading a 100-plus-year-old legacy business started in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for those that don't know First Companies, First Supply, why don't you share a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure. So we are a 127-year-old company, headed into our 128th year next year. But we were started right here in La Crosse, Wisconsin by four gentlemen, one of them being my great-grandfather, who was a well driller. And he wanted to sell these newfangled metal windmills with the wells that he dug. And no one in town had them. No one in western Wisconsin even had them. So he ventured out on his own, said, fine, I can do this myself. And he started our company with metal windmills and then all of the implements you would need to be a well driller or plumber at the time. One of my relatives was actually a carpenter because pipes were wooden at the time. So to be a good pipe fitter, you had to be a good carpenter. He actually also carved the doors on the cathedral right down the road here because he was a pipe fitter carpenter. So that was part of our history. But kind of fast forward, we've been involved for my family, the Poehling family has been involved for all 127 years. And we're really incredibly proud of that we've been able to continue our legacy. And I being fifth generation, we've already got the sixth generation of our business involved in various different ways throughout the company. And it's been an incredible journey. Coming right here from the banks of the Mississippi River, we've moved all up and down the river, but we've always been headquartered right here in town.
Amazing. And you guys are all over the Midwest, I believe?
Right. We have 53 branches now, 701 employees. I just finished a really fun road show of going around and visiting every location. We're building a new distribution center here in West Salem, right here. And so I went around and talked to all of our employees about what that meant for them and how they can stay connected to the project. We learned a fun fact the other day. I believe it to be true that it will be the largest warehouse in La Crosse County when it's complete. So it's a lot of fun to watch it go up. And I'll talk more about some of the really cool innovation and automation and robotics that we have there. It gives us a great opportunity in our industry to be really leading in some of this stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. It's we've had a couple different legacy businesses. We had the Dolls and some others that have been legacy family businesses. So we're really excited to talk about that, to talk about the dynamic of working with family, of kind of taking over the torch. And so thank you again for being here. But tell us more about your involvement. Is this something that you kind of knew these were the shoes to fill and you were going to be taking on leadership, or did you want to chart your own path, or tell us more about that?
Sure. So we have a guideline in our family. We have to work outside the business for 5 years. And my father, Joe, who was our CEO and chairman for many years, started that because it helps us all to have a different boss, learn new things. The amount of things that we've all brought back to the business because of that, of what we've seen elsewhere, is really incredible. But so I had no plans to come into the business. I'm a tax attorney by education, so I was doing my own thing. But I always saw my father have a really interesting job that I thought was really exciting, and he loved it. So when he talked to me about coming into the family business, I thought, what would I do? What does that look like? We had just made an acquisition of a small company in Sheboygan, and that was my first project, is really integrating that business into our culture and all of the different divisions that we're in as a business. And that was really similar to what I had been doing in consulting. So I thought, this is kind of fun. This is cool. I can do this. And I've just worked throughout the business. He did an excellent job working with me and my cousin, Todd Restel, who's our CFO, in helping us learn the business from the ground up, even though we came in with a number of years of experience. He started in the warehouse. He started as a driver. He got to learn the business as it grew and as he grew. We didn't have that same experience, although I will say I've cleaned that warehouse many times. I've worked in the pipe yard more than once. So I do have fun stories about having done almost every job in the business from at one point or the other. So I always had this kind of store of knowledge in the back of my mind, but we had a really specific plan about making sure that we understand who the customers were, who the vendors are, and how to impact and influence each of the divisions throughout our business. So we started working through that many, many years ago. And the other key part, it's kind of fast forwarding through to our succession. I took over about 5 years ago. So we had a succession plan. And for any family business, that can be the make it or break it moment, because if there's not a plan and if everybody doesn't know the plan and if the key constituents aren't engaged in the plan, that's when conflict arises. That's when uncertainty happens, and that's when things can change. So we've been really intentional for many generations now about making sure that we had a plan that everybody knew. So it was always the plan for me to, not always, but as we set that plan, the plan was for me to take over and fill this job. So I knew I wanted a job like his. I didn't know I'd end up in his job.
Well, yeah, amazing. So I was kind of amazed in preparing for this podcast I just watched the show on the plane ride back actually from vacation. I can't remember the name of it. It's popular on Netflix right now, but it talks about the West and like how the West was won and like fighting battles and fighting Indians and like all the stuff that was going on. And you think of the time frame, wasn't that far off from when this business started.
Mm-hmm.
And you think of where we are now, you think that was like ancient, that didn't happen, but that was your great grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was somebody that you knew that lived in that time period. Tell us more about the history of First Supply, of starting in that, just doing windmills to like all of the technological advances up until now. Like just maybe walk us through, what does that timeline look like?
Sure. My uncle wrote a book for our 125th anniversary 2 years ago. So I had a lot of fun diving into that history because I do bits and pieces, but there is so much in this rich history that we have. And it's really tied to the history of lacrosse. And it's really tied to the history of our industry at the same time. So, of course, when we started on the river, just it was the center of town and the center of where to be. And we have a pretty classic immigrant story. So the gentleman who started the business for my family, he came over to the United States from Germany because he had a huge, giant farm family, and his oldest brother was going to inherit the farm. So there was nothing left for him. He had to make his own way. So he found his way to Wisconsin, or to the U.S., and then worked his way up to Wisconsin and ultimately into the trades and founded the business. But over time, there's been really interesting little tidbits, again, of town. So we barged pipe up and down the river for a really long time. There was a big pipe yard in Minneapolis, and we would barge it down here and then offload it. My grandfather developed this way of offloading the pipe faster than anybody else could at the time. So we were just really efficient at it. He was an old German efficiency guy. And so the company asked us to start redistributing pipe throughout the entire upper Midwest. This was when we were just one small location here in La Crosse. And the State Department ended up coming and saying, you have a monopoly on pipe in this part of the country, and you can no longer use that implement to offload your pipe. You've got to do it like a regular person. So shut us down. So sometimes you can get too innovative. But and I learned kind of recently in our history, in 1970, there was a major flood in downtown. And that's when city leaders got together to really reimagine what downtown La Crosse was going to look like coming out of this catastrophic flood. And that's when the Radisson was built, the La Crosse Center was built. And it just so happened that our building was right on the site of the La Crosse Center. So we got booted down the river a little bit, but we stayed in close to the river. It was 1970. We were still doing a lot of barging up and down the river. So we built the building there. That building was built for us by Fowler and Hammer. They're working on our new DC1 building. So it's kind of cool that for 3 generations, we've been building buildings with our partners right here in the La Crosse area. But We've got some cool stories in our industry too, like I mentioned. We did some research a couple of years ago for our 125th anniversary, and we found that A.O. Smith got a patent for the glass-lined water heater in 1930. We have a PO for a couple of weeks after that patent was issued. And so A.O. Smith believes we're their oldest customer. They can't find anybody with any record being older than us. And we're single branded with them, which means that that's the only brand of water heater we sell. We've been loyal to A.O. Smith for that many years, and it's served us really well. We've been excellent partners growing together. Similar story with Kohler Company. And one of the things that we really love about this, these are all Wisconsin family businesses. The A.O. Smith family still has a controlling interest there. The Kohler family is fifth generation family owned. There's a letter that hangs here in our headquarters downtown, and one that hangs at the headquarters building in Sheboygan. And it's from David Kohler, who's the CEO of Kohler Company, his great grandfather to mine, for a bathtub. And it's dated September 1897. We started in May of 1897. So it took us a couple months for the guys in Sheboygan to find us, but they did, and we've been customers ever since. And we're now one of their valuable global customers. So David and I take a lot of pride in that partnership that's lasted 5 generations at 127 years. You don't take lightly. Those are special relationships. And it's allowed us to do some cool stuff, to test some things, to take some risks with them. David's sister, Laura, one of my great mentors and people I look up to in the industry, she has started a whole sustainability division within Kohler. They're working really hard on their green initiatives. So you think about the future and where that's headed and our ability to leverage our partnership. We opened the first LEED Gold certified retail location in the United States with them in Milwaukee. So just the opportunities we have to do some fun stuff when we've got partnerships that are so meaningful.
That's amazing. So go back to your story of getting involved, the 5 years working up to the business. Are there some specific skill sets that you were intentional about learning beforehand? You said you coming from an accounting background. Are there some specific skill sets that you learned that were helpful to you in becoming CEO?
One of the biggest things I do as CEO is communicate. And this has been a 25-year journey for me. Quite honestly, I rewind 25 years ago, and I was a terrible, timid, horrible speaker in anything. It just was not a part of my natural skill set. And so I knew this about myself, and I knew I was going to have to get better at it. I wasn't quite sure how. I had the opportunity to take a leadership role in my sorority in college. So I served as our chief financial officer. Every week I had to get up and give a financial report out to our whole 100-woman chapter. That was a double whammy because I hated speaking and nobody wanted to hear about the financials. It was super boring. So they would hear about when the next event was coming up. Yeah. But anyway, so that got me in front of people and got me speaking. When I went to law school, I had a professor who blatantly said, "You're terrible at this and you've got to fix it. You've got to get better. It's just really going to serve you well." He said, "You have to take the trial advocacy class, even if you never want to be in a courtroom, because it will teach you, it will force you to organize your thoughts, react to things quickly and on your feet, and it will make you a better speaker." So I did that. That improved. But then I continued to seek out other ways to become a better speaker, become better at organizing my thoughts and presenting them in a way that was meaningful and coherent. So really, it's taken me a long time, but one of the opportunities I had was in our industry was to take a leadership role pretty early on my tenure in the industry with our Women in Industry division. And as president of that division, I had to get up and speak in a room of a couple hundred women. And then I took on our president role 2 years ago now, and I gave probably 40 speeches that year. And my team told me even from the beginning of that year to the end of that year, they could see a difference in my ability to do it. The only way to get better at communicating is to do it more. So that's been a skill that's taken me, again, that 25-year journey to get better, but it really has served me well because it also has taught me the impact that communicating can have. When you can communicate clearly and really directly and with people, it makes a really big difference, and it can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah, certainly. Nobody likes to public speak, but if you're in a role that requires you to, I know personally I've been taking some coaching classes for public speaking and just trying to become better at the same thing too. So I think that's really good. You mentioned that you were the head of the women's, say that again?
Women in industry.
Women in industry. So being a woman in the trades industry, male-dominated industry, was that something that was intimidating to you starting off?
I don't think I knew the difference.
Okay.
And I'm lucky at that. My father created a space where I just came right along and did things right alongside with him. Obviously, I recognized it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I previously had been in tax consulting, and that's not a hugely female-dominated industry. Also, at one of my feel like origin stories, when I went to Aquinas here in town, and when I started high school, there were no women's soccer teams. We didn't have women's soccer yet, and the girls played on the boys team, and we had women's clubs teams that we had been playing for a while, and said, we've got enough women, we can make this happen. So we went in front of the school board and asked for a women's team. And so Aquinas started a women's team. Eventually, obviously, everybody has one today. But that was a time when I felt like I had an opportunity to be an advocate for a group of women. And it certainly was not just me. Our mothers were very involved. Our families were involved. Our coaches were involved. There were a lot of people. But for me personally, my role in that story was a huge part of the fabric of what made me realize, number one, I can take a role, and number two, I can make a difference. We actually change something for the better. It is a ball for me now to see highlights on TV of one of the Cooley region teams succeeding, because I think back, oh, that's not because of me, but I had some small role to play in creating this opportunity. So as much as I say I didn't notice the difference, I very much know there's a difference, but always felt empowered to do something about it.
I think that's awesome to look at it. That I think a lot of people do see the difference and maybe put too much emphasis on the difference. Without getting political and stuff, I think we put too much emphasis on the color of your skin or your gender or whatever, versus just the person who's most qualified and is best for the job and is confident in what they're doing should be the one who's doing it, right? So I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on that, but it's business as usual for you, which is how it should be. It shouldn't be something that we're looking at gender or using that as a qualification or not. So go ahead.
Oh, and one of the things it's interesting to feel like you have the opportunity to change things and to, not necessarily feel super different, but at the same time, there's been countless times, almost every day, where I'm in a situation, and sometimes it's again that naivety, perhaps, where I walk into a room and don't realize it, and about 10 minutes into a meeting, I look around and go, I'm the only female in here. And I'm usually the youngest person in here. And there is an other feeling, there's an otherness to it. It's about, though, having the tools and resources to figure out how to manage being other or different. It's certainly not simple, and it's certainly not simple for so many people. But when but when you've got the awareness of it, you can impact it potentially.
Yeah.
In the same vein with your company, obviously you can't, yes, it's about who's most qualified, but in the same way of there is no women's team. Well, we literally don't have the opportunity to show that we are good or have the same skill. So have you taken that kind of advocacy role or helping or promoting women now in your business? Have you done some of those similar things now, as obviously having the position and having the authority and kind of having a platform to be able to lift up other women as well?
Absolutely. So I was one of the founding members of our Women in Industry division in our primary industry association called the American Supply Association, ASA. And it's the industry association for plumbing and pipes, valves, and fittings, and represents distributors, manufacturers, and manufacturers reps. And we had no women's division, and it was starting to become much more common at the time that organizations like that were establishing women's divisions. And I had the opportunity I was speaking about young people in our industry, and there was another woman there, Ashley Martin, and we said, why don't we start a women's division? And we're talking with the CEO of the organization. He said, well, if you think it's such a good idea, go start it. Well, we will. So we are off to the races. And it's been the fastest growing division in our association and is just about the largest in our association. Wow. Now. We'll have about 500 women in Miami this year. And we've been about 10 years into it.
Wow.
So it was really, really exciting to be able to, again, make an impact. But to your point, I had the opportunity. I was in the right place at the right time with the right resources behind me to do that. And hopefully it has made a difference for so many women. We've heard that it has. One of the coolest things about that group is that it's not just about segmenting people where they are in their career. So it's not necessarily for new entrants in the career or someone in a specific division. It brings together women who have been doing this for 30 years, and I have seen so many different permutations of who's around the table, to young women in the industry who are just starting to notice there aren't a lot of women in the industry, and brings people together to find those mentors, to find advocates, to share best practices, what helped them get through times when they didn't feel like they had a voice, and how can young women then parlay their voice into something even stronger. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So being in a 100 plus 127-year-old company, how do you balance like maintaining the legacy that First Supply has with also innovating for the future and bringing new ideas to the table?
Yeah, it's incredible because it's easy. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my life, honestly, is this legacy that we have as a business and as a family and as a business owning family. When Todd and Joe and I think about our role in the family business, it's truly one as stewards. We are stewards of this legacy, of this asset, from those of us who were before us, and we're really just caretakers for those who will come after us. And when we have that perspective, it becomes really simple to just view it as something that we can carry with incredible pride. But we really don't believe we'd be doing service to being a steward if we just kind of sat back and went, wow, hasn't this been great? What a great 127-year ride. But it's part of our legacy to innovate and to continue to really play a role, in our industry and in our communities. Our vision statement is to distribute innovation and partnership in our communities for generations. And we recast that a couple of years ago, and every word mattered. Distribute is what we do. Innovation is what we strive for, and partnership is what we are proud of being. We intend to do that in our communities. It's where we work, where we live, where we grow up and raise our families. And we intend to do it for generations. This isn't about the past. It's about continuing forward. So we really feel like that makes a statement about how we feel about our past and what we intend for our future. But even more so, as a distributor, we play a critical role in the supply chain as the link between our manufacturing partners and then our trade customers. So the partnerships and really the role that we can play there gives us a unique platform. We have multi-generation customers. I already mentioned Fowler and Hammer, but working on our building, Schneider, third-generation customer, Hengel Brothers, third-generation customer for us. We have other customers who have been on this journey with us that long. I talked about A.O. Smith and Kohler. I mentioned Ashley Martin. Her family owns Nibco, Northern Indiana Brass Company. They just celebrated 120 years, and she's their fifth-generation leader, the first female CEO, and their legacy. So when you have that shared legacy and that shared importance of industry and presence in place, it becomes really easy to think about making decisions that don't just impact tomorrow, but impact the next generations tomorrow and all of those kinds of things. So I feel incredibly fortunate to have that platform and really all of that behind me, because that's not everybody's story. And if you're working for a large publicly traded company, it's really cool and exciting, but it's different than how I'm able to operate my business and the decisions I'm able to make.
Do you find it difficult, some of the innovation and stuff? I just think with like 2025, you look at, there's a huge technological advance, right? Early 2000s, computer comes along, but now everybody can innovate and change so quickly. And often people talk about like, well, if we're not continuing to strive forward, you're not just really plateauing, but you're going back. Like you're either going forward or you're going backwards. And so with that, what are some of like the difficulties and the challenges with continuing to innovate, to continue for your guys' company to push forward and be the best that you can be in with all these relationships too? Yeah,
I think it was Jack Welch who said, if the world outside the business is moving faster than the business is moving, then you're dying, kind of. And I believe that to be very true, exactly what you said. So we have to we have a couple of principles that we follow. Innovation at the core of everything, but not innovation for innovation's sake. It has to be a tool or a resource that delivers improvement for our teams, our employees, our customers, or our vendors. So we really try to make sure we're not, we don't have a solution in search of a problem. That's really critical, and that helps cut out a whole lot of noise. And our leadership team does a great job of challenging each other on that element. But we've looked at quite a few areas in our industry where we feel like we could make some advancements. We're really proud of the fact that we had one of the first computers in our industry in the 1960s. We had a big old IBM computer, but that brought us a foundation that allowed us to grow by standardizing some of our business practices. My uncle Ed Felton did that. But then we've continued to push the needle in multiple different areas. Our new distribution center, I already mentioned, will have robotics. It will have an Exotech system, which is a French company that has developed a proprietary way to embed their software with their robotics. So it's more seamless implementation and integration with our new WMS system, which is a warehouse management system. We'll be one of the people in our industry to have this kind of combination of resources together in one building in the way that we do pretty far along the way. We'll also have a new transportation management system, which will enhance safety for our teams. That's one of the biggest ways we can innovate. When I think about the danger that some of the people offloading a barge, I hear my uncles talk about offloading rail cars in the 60s and 70s and some of how dangerous that was. We don't have those kind of risks today. Our employees are safer and healthier and better for it because of some of the innovations that we've taken. It's not always technology and it's not always a computer system, but our transportation management system is actually innovated by a Dutch company. And we're really proud of the fact that we're bringing these best-in-class global resources right here to Western Wisconsin, where we started, the place that has fueled our growth and prosperity for so long. So it's been kind of fun. We've got all these global calls of all these people talking about West Salem. I don't even know, they could probably point to it on a map, but it's neat, and it will allow us to just improve our ability to get more product closer to our customers faster. And ultimately, that delivers a better experience for them, a better experience for our manufacturing partners because they're able to get more of their product to market faster. And then obviously for our teams who are able to continue to promote that. In West Salem, we'll also have a training center. We have a full training center in Madison, Wisconsin as well. That was named after my uncle Ed Felton that I already mentioned. But that's allowed us to leverage our opportunities to enhance the trades and enhance their ability to engage with new products. Technology is changing so quickly. In the HVAC world, there was a new set of regulations that just came out at first of the year, and there'll be another new set of regulations next year. All those technicians needed to get hands-on with that equipment and learn how to service it and learn how to install it. We provide a platform for them to be able to do it and to get those certifications. We'll have that here too. And our teams will be able to use those training centers too. So education is one of our core values, and that's been a key place where we think we can innovate and continue to improve. In Madison, we worked with the McKenzie Center, and they've created a bridge between the Boys and Girls Club in Madison and training centers and training for the trades. So they utilize our training center there. I've been working with Joan Park here, talking about how we can do that here as well, and what we can do to create that really smooth transition from the Boys and Girls Club into the trades and into a really bright future for a lot of people. And that's an innovation. Again, no technology, but an innovative way to think about, here's the problem, not enough people in the trades, and here's the solution that we can implement.
Yeah, I think that's really unique. Yeah, because whenever you think innovations, you either think system or computerized something nowadays, engineering a new product. But yeah, innovation is, okay, how can we add value and help for the betterment of our team that we already have? We're not necessarily doing something new in terms of product, but we can innovate to make the life of our employees and our culture even better too. So I think that's really cool. And then will you hopefully be partnering? Because I know we just had Jake Erickson on with their whole training center. So that's
exactly it. Yep. It'll be really neat.
Wow, that'll be really cool. As long as you guys don't innovate too fast and the State Department shuts it down, they get right. So
yeah, but it's interesting because there's pieces like it's almost table stakes today to be utilizing AI, to be utilizing some of the things that are going on. And all of our leadership team has taken a personal stake in learning about it, being more educated about what that means, how it might be a solution, not just a solution in search of a problem. I joined the board of advisors for a startup in AI product recommendation in the HVAC space, just so I could learn more. I mean, I could help a startup with a really cool idea, but I could also learn more about how that technology was going to improve our ability to deliver training and services to our customers too.
From an outside perspective and a fellow business owner, like, I'm thinking of all of the logistics of your business, of a massive business, and specifically in warehousing and inventory management and automation and robotics, like all of this stuff. How do you keep all of that? How does your team keep all of that straight and keep everybody on the same page to know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it and where, like, explain the logistics of that. And I know that's not your role specifically, but that just how all of that stuff fits together in a seamless operation, all to serve a customer, blows my mind. When you think of any business in general, of all of those things that have to go right and have to be standardized, all with the same goal of serving the customer, that just, it blows my mind. So especially with a business like yours.
Honestly, we have a brilliant team of people who do this all day, every day, and are experts in this area. And it's a really great combination of people who have built their career at First Supply. We have multiple 40-year plus employees who have seen a lot and done a lot and advanced us in ways that they said we used to do it this way and we think we have a better way. Some of our best innovations come from our teams raising their hands and saying we think we could be better here. And then we have people who are new to our business or new to the industry that bring their ideas with them, that bring the best practices and best-in-class utilizations with them, that really create a full complement of how we go to business and really ensure that our customers get the product they need at the right time every single day. It's a tangled web of how we move things sometimes, which is one of the reasons we're really excited for this distribution center, because it will really pivot for us how we're able to do this. There are industry leading others, especially in the regional independent space, which we would be considered a regional independent versus a publicly traded company in our space. And some others have done pieces of this innovation work, and we've seen their success. We've learned from them. Our industry is phenomenal in the amount of sharing and collaboration that happens. We've been able to visit others who have done this well, learn from what they've done. They're now visiting us to learn how they could improve themselves. But that will allow us to really take to the next level how some of this works in a much more streamlined fashion and augment some of the technologies and innovations in the software part of the world that we'll catch up with. That'll be really, really helpful. But it comes down to our people. Yeah. Number one, I mean, you can have awesome software, you can have tons of cool robots, but if you don't have people who believe in the ultimate mission, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned AI. Are there things you guys are doing right now with AI in your business and implementing?
Little bits all over the place. We've got, we're just talking about launching a task force specific to AI as we figure out where it makes sense. And it's going to make sense everywhere and anywhere in some cases. One of our latest opportunities though right now is that we're utilizing for training. We have so much knowledge in our people. How do we impart that on newer employees and newer team members? So we've got a new tool in training that we're about to launch where someone can do a recorded training class and then the AI will pull out the step-by-step pieces and then be able to deliver it in a meaningful way. Those types of things that add value immediately and then can be implemented across various different areas in the business are hugely valuable.
Yeah, ChatGPT alone, just as like a smaller business owner to use, and to be totally transparent, I use it for outlines and questions. I mean, you can put your guest's website in ChatGPT, and within literally 2 seconds, it will analyze the entire website of everything that you have on there and the whole story and about the person, and you tell them what types of questions you want, and it gives you a baseline. I don't just copy and
Great. No,
paste, right?
every guest now knows our secret. They thought we were so smart, and now they're
secret.
I won't
You
get into
commented on the questions.
yeah. Everybody thought we were so smart. Now they know.
But it gives you a baseline. But I was just telling Nagoni, like, it just amazes me in 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, the entire website is analyzed and the whole outline is formulated. It takes a lot more time to go through and weed it, but it gives you a baseline versus staring at a blank page and trying to think of something. That's just one tiny application. I can't imagine the application to a business like yours in the future. So
Yeah. I wrote an article for industry publication once a month, and I started off like, I'm going to write these myself. This is my voice. By the end, I was totally using ChatGPT for everyone, but I could add my voice, and I could upload the articles I had written previously,
and it'll learn, and it'll write it just like you.
Yeah, it was really helpful to learn that. It forced me to find ways that it went from being maybe a 2-hour project to maybe a 30-minute project, and I picked up an hour and a half of my day.
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's the people that is really why your business is so successful. So can you talk to that about obviously being across the Midwest and having so many different stores and branches, or however your language would, translate that. But like, how are you able to keep that and inspire the people to get behind the mission when you are such a big, large company, but then homed here in La Crosse, Wassalem?
Mm-hmm. So it really comes down to the people and the leadership in each building, because we can have an awesome vision statement and we can talk about it and we can do all of the things that are important. But if someone on the team, if their experience doesn't align with that vision or mission on every single day, it doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to create the culture that we strive for. So it really comes down to leadership on the ground every single day. And we've been so fortunate to have incredible people that do have passion for the industry, for our customers, and for what we do every day. It was really incredible. We talk about this as an industry, but I see it in our own business too. During the pandemic, our industry was deemed essential. And what that did for us to go from, well, we sell pipes and toilets to we're essential. That was a bit of a badge of honor for us. But the reason we were deemed essential is because we are integral to delivering clean, healthy, safe water to our communities every single day. And we kind of forget that. We forget that what we do is so critical. And so that became a whole nother mantra for us to get behind, to ensure that our customers have the products they need to deliver the clean, safe, healthy water to our communities. And you see it happen all over the place, unfortunately, where there's not clean water in Flint, Michigan, and what happens? Or there's not enough water to fight a fire. We do waterworks, we sell fire hydrants. If one of our hydrants wasn't in the right place with the right resources behind it, what could happen? So that critical business that we do every day, and the people who believe in that business is really what it takes. And that culture sometimes is a little different in each building, but the core thread that runs through it is the key.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But yeah, it would remind you of, you think we're just doing this minimal task and we just deliver whatever, but to, be labeled essential. That's like a cool, this is a really big deal, even though it seems sometimes insignificant. So yeah, I really like that.
What are some traits that you look for in your leadership team that you have, practically speaking, that somebody can strive to embody? What kind of person are the leaders on your team?
The leaders on our team, gosh, everyone has so many different varied attributes that come together to be the fabric of a wonderful team. But really, everybody cares about each other and is very respectful to each other. There's a whole lot about politics and dynamics that can really destroy a team in so many ways. But if we can all show up to the table every day and know that our voice is respected and it has value, and what we say and do is going to be meaningful, we may not side with that person every time. Somebody maybe say, we got to do this, or we got to make this decision, and it's not the right one for the team. We've got to be able to say, okay, I didn't get it this time, but I maybe moved people's thinking, or maybe I brought a different perspective to them. And I really appreciate the team for that attribute. We're able to have tough conversations, but we're able to know that we care for and respect each other at the end of the day. So those hard conversations we can step aside from them and know that we can move it forward. Thinking about the COVID piece again, when we were deemed essential, one of the things that allowed us to do was have the opportunity to take care of every employee every day. We didn't have to lay off a single employee during that time frame. We didn't have to lay off a single employee in 2008. We didn't have to lay off a single employee during the Great Depression, according to our history. And we had to do a whole bunch of things to make that happen. But sitting in my seat during that time frame and knowing that was our history, that was our legacy, that at the end of the day, we took care of each other. We started this pandemic or this depression or this Great Recession. We started that together, and we're going to end it together. That really changed my thinking about how we were going to approach this whole thing. Because we were going to do it together, and everybody shows up to work it doesn't have to be a pandemic for that to be how we show up at work every day. In that we truly have a deep understanding about taking care of each other throughout good times and bad.
Yeah. How do you handle that expectation from family or the pressure of this is what we've always done? I can't be the one to screw it up. Like personally, how do you handle that?
When I was talking to our teams over the last couple of months about this big project in the distribution center, I shared with them a story. As I was preparing for those presentations, there have been 3 times that I walked out of one of our board meetings and I went, what did I just do? And we have an independent board of directors that oversees the business and governance. And the first one was when we built our store in Detroit area. So Kohler Signature Store in Detroit. It was the furthest away we had ever expanded our business. I remember calling our operations manager and saying, maybe stupidly, did you know it's another time zone? What are we going to do? How are we going to set the computer for another time zone? But, we just thought nothing of it. Let's go. We've got a market to attack. Let's go do it. So that store is still thriving. We've got some of the original team that's still with us, and we're building a second location in Detroit to open in a couple of weeks. That entrance to that market was a good risk. The second one was actually when I took this job. I already shared we had a succession plan that everybody knew it. We were ready to go. But unfortunately, my father had a stroke during the pandemic, and it actually was no problem. He's still healthy and great and working in the business. But at the time, we called an emergency board meeting. It was really only about a 15-minute board meeting because everybody knew the plan. We just worked the plan. So incredible gift that we had there. The reason I went, what the heck did I just do, is I was 4 months pregnant with twins and I had a 1-year-old.
Good timing. Yeah.
Timing could have been better. It actually turned out great because he and my mom helped me take care of the twins as I was working into this role, and it's all worked out really well and been incredible after all. But the third time was when we approved this distribution center. It's the largest project the business had ever undertaken, the largest project the reinvestment the family's ever made into the business. It's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
So when I think about, gosh, don't screw it up, Katie. This is one of those times that we have to have the confidence. We have to have the swagger to be able to say, we've got this big project. We've got the people to do it, the partnerships to make it happen. Let's do it. Let's make this the lever that takes us into the next 127 years, and know that we've got really the will to thrive and survive it, no matter what it brings us. We also have like 7 binders full of contingency plans.
Yeah.
That's just that. So.
That's awesome. So you talk about being a CEO and a mom. I as a dad, I love my kids and stuff, and obviously being CEO of such a large company. Like, what is life like being a CEO and mom?
Oh, crazy.
So how many kids do you 3 kids?
Yep,
Okay.
3, Frances, Georgia, and Johanna. Frances is 5 now, and Georgia and Johanna are almost 4. So they'll be 4 in 2 weeks. So It's been really crazy, but I've been really fortunate. Again, I've said that a couple of times now, but I've been really fortunate to have a phenomenal network of people to help me, to help our family. My husband does the lion's share of work when I'm traveling or I'm doing things that really he's able to keep the lights on at home. But also my extended family to be able to help us do all of that too. But I am proud of the example I hope I give them. And we really do strive to raise them with the tools and resources to be able to take risks and be challenged. And they see these things that maybe mom has done. They got to travel with me when I was industry president that year, which was so much fun. They got to swim in swimming pools at hotels all over the place, which is what they remember. Yep. But yeah, it's fun to see them start to see the business and realize the business. Frances said to me a couple of weeks ago, "Mom, I heard you're the boss at work." And I was something. She said, I want to be a boss. So I'm going to start my own company. She said, it's called Frances Supply.
There you go.
Better watch out.
Yeah,
exactly. It's so neat to see them just realize and understand what's happening and their little brains start to process all of that. But
time to write them into the succession plan, right?
Exactly.
So you don't got to start your own. We'll just write you into the contingency plan here.
Exactly. So. Yeah, Frances asked to come to work with me today. She said, "Mom, can I come to work with you?" I said, "Oh, not today, but we'll find a day you can come."
Now, this would have been the perfect time. Addie loved to come here. I have some Addie episodes of my son coming because he's like, "Oh, that's the podcast. I want to go to the podcast." I'm like, "It's just a room. It's not really that cool, but he thinks it's cool." So
one of the times she did get to come to work with us last year, and I was actually, in hindsight, was like, wow, how cool was that for her? I was the chairperson of the American Heart Association Go Red for Women in Milwaukee last year. We raised the most money in our 20-year history. I was really proud of it. But she got to come to the luncheon and see me speak and talk about why that was important to me. She got to see a room full of people that was important to. That's what she was talking about this morning when she said, "Can I come to work with you and see you talk?" And then those other people talked, and then I got cake. But for her to see our business married with our philanthropic efforts and then impact on the community, I couldn't have paid for that lesson for her. That just kind of transpired over time, but that was really neat.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, little kids, they just pick up all those little things, and it seems like, oh, I'm just kind of bringing you along, but it's amazing to them and how much they're absorbing and picking up, and even like just their belief and their hopes, and then their dreams start to get built and their personalities. So I can't imagine how much they must see you being the boss and being mom, and the amount it's probably inspiring them to the point where they don't even know. So that's just really incredible. So appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So talking to someone who is planning to take over a family business, what word of advice would you give to them? I know you mentioned the succession plan, but what else? What other advice would you give to that person that's maybe in line to take over the family business?
It's never too early to start planning. And we started probably about 10 years ago. Our governance structure is a little bit unique in that there'll be 16 of us that ultimately will own this business together, if my cousins and I. And we started really with some basic education. Not all of them, obviously. Just Todd and I are connected to the business in our generation, and his wife Eva Marie, obviously. And my husband Jeff, I should say. We started with some basic education about what the company does, who we serve, how big we are, what does the business really look like today? Because many of them remembered it as a place their parents worked, or they haven't really thought about it in a long time. And now fast forward to, you're going to be an owner of this business someday if you choose. And what does that mean for you? And really, we convalesced here at the Radisson Hotel, and we sat down and talked about our shared values, what that meant for us as a family, and then what it meant for our business, and then our shared vision for the business. And if that vision isn't shared, that's okay. We're still family. That's not going to change no matter what. We might just not be a business owning family or own a business together. You may be a cousin, but not a partner. And that's okay. We all had to really sit around and say that's going to be okay. We can move forward, and that's what this looks like anyways. So we're still long away from actually changing our ownership structure, but we started to build the foundation of what that looks like. So again, back to our succession planning our value that we know what it's going to look like. We meet once a year. Everybody in the whole family, we've got about 80 people. So everyone's invited to participate and learn about, we do like a whole weekend, and everybody gets to learn about what's going on in the business, what I'm working on. One of our board members presents about what the board is worried about, looking at what's going on from their perspective. And we do a lot of education about what it means to be a family business. We've worked with Northwestern and the John Ward Institute there. And I think 10 of us will have been through that course after this year. But creating a shared language and dialogue about family business theories, practices, best practices, and then how we can implement them in our own systems and processes. It's a family business has become a passion of mine. It's just so fascinating, and there's so many cool stories. There's also so many sad stories about families that weren't ready, or who didn't think it through, or who had really their own best interests at heart and not the best interests of the family or what their future as a family looked like together. We've got stories in our past of people who didn't have a shared interest in what was best for the family, and have a different role in the family today. So all of that we can learn from, but really there's an opportunity to do it right.
Those are the cousins that sit at the kids' table at Christmas, right?
Chicken nuggets only for them.
So are these, are they facilitated by like a third party, somebody that's coming in to facilitate that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we work with a consulting group that has helped us, again, figure out our shared values, make sure those are really clear, those are well communicated. It goes back to communication again. We have a family council that we've developed. So that has a member from each branch of the family that meets monthly and talks about making sure that our communication is clear. We've started to put out a family newsletter so that people know what's going on, just little things people are doing in their personal life, big things that are happening, things that are going on with the business, all kinds of little things, but just so everyone stays connected and has a shared understanding of those values and the vision.
That's really neat. I would imagine there have been some scenarios where like entitlement crept in, right? Of I'm a member of the family, this is what I deserve. And I think of like my friends who are financial advisors and help people through estate planning. And like, that's how so many families get destroyed from if mom and dad leave a pile of money and no direction of what to do with it. How do you prevent or eliminate entitlement from coming into those conversations? And how do you handle that?
I'm not sure it could ever be truly eliminated, but honestly, I would give my grandparents an extraordinary amount of credit to have built a culture within our family that is very philanthropic. Education is maybe our number one value, and that holds true for our own personal growth and development, as well as how it reflects into our business, and community engagement. Those things that, if your goals are to be well-educated and knowledgeable and to stay curious about the world around you, and you want to be philanthropic and be a key participant in your community, there's not a lot of room for entitlement in that equation, right? So, and that really does stem from my grandparents who created that culture. And then huge credit to the family members around us that we all continued those values, those shared values as a family. I could talk about philosophies and theories about family business all I want, but if my cousins and aunts and uncles and their kids weren't interested in participating, it wouldn't matter. So it really takes the whole family to be rowing in the same direction and have that desire to continue on as a leader in the industry and a leader in our communities to make it work. So it's not a real easy answer to your question, but it's never too late to start, right? It's never too late for a single family to instill those values like we talked about in their children, and understanding about, yes, there's this maybe incredible asset or a group of assets that are available to you, but what are the expectations about how you're going to interact with them and what they'll mean for you and for your future?
Yeah. What an awesome example that you guys are setting. I think that's really cool. I think we've been blessed to talk with a lot of awesome people on the podcast, and like it sounds so cliche, but people say you got to think bigger. You're thinking too small. And like I've always thought that I'm a big thinker and a big dreamer, but then you sit next to people and you hear what others are doing, like what your entire family is doing, and family newsletter and gatherings. Like you guys are going way above and beyond probably what is needed, right? But what an example for somebody who is, maybe their dad has a plumbing business or an HVAC business that they can take over, that like this is possible to do that. That's really, really cool and inspiring to hear you talk about that and the dynamic that you guys have as a family.
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, family business won't work with me. My sister would ruin everything. Just kidding. Just kidding. Love you, sister.
Katie, I know in 2020 you were recognized for the Alicea Martin Woman of the Year Award, which I think is a pretty big deal in your industry. So tell us more about the significance of that and the honor of being recognized for that.
Yes, thank you. The Alicea Martin Award is really significant to me both personally and professionally. The Martin family owns NIPCO, and Ashley Martin just took over as their CEO and president. And they just celebrated 120 years. And our families have been friends and partners literally for generations. But I worked with Ashley to start the ASA Women in Industry group. And Alice was one of our first speakers. Alice is Ashley's mom. And she was truly a trailblazer in our industry and an icon, honestly. She was one of the strongest female leaders we've seen. And she did it in a time and a place where it wasn't very common, but also an incredibly generous philanthropic person who shared her time and her spirit and her talent so well throughout their entire community and throughout our industry. There are many of us who hope to walk in her shoes, but unfortunately she passed away way too young a number of years ago. And Ashley and the NIPCO company created this award. Ashley was the very first winner. I lobbied on her behalf as one of the founders of Women in Industry and as Alice's daughter, as someone who just who really is living Alice's spirit. But I was really honored to be the next recipient of that award, and it was really cool, again, personally, for Ashley and her family to recognize Alice's spirit in me. And those of us in the industry who have won this award know that it really means something to us. It's not just because you've been in the industry for a long time or you've done XYZ. It's really about having the whole meaningful spirit behind it. So that's been one of my greatest honors and probably always will be in my career.
That's so cool. What are more on the being a woman in business and being recognized like that? Like, what are some things that you hope to inspire into other women that are either in leadership or in business in general?
Honestly, it's about creating a voice for women. We've done a really good job, I believe, in our industry and even in our own company. Our company is about 50% female today. And I was doing some statistics. Our leadership team's about 25% of women. And that sounds great, but there are 8 of us and 2 females. So 25%. But quite honestly, leanin.org and McKinsey does a great study about women in the workplace every year. And that's exactly the statistic that they see, and they call it the broken rung on the ladder, that women start off in a business, 50% female representation across our business, but only 25% in leadership. So there's a broken rung on that corporate ladder somewhere, someplace. It tends to begin with flexibility and the inflexibility for people in the workplace. And it's just as important for dads, especially post-COVID, as it is for moms or females in general. Caregiving tends to be the number one. And it's not always about kids. It's more and more about parents. There may be parents or other family members that need care in your life that you're not able to provide because of the inflexibility at work, or you provide and it takes you a step back at work or affords you different opportunities. So a lot of work to be done about how we can create this flexibility in the workplace that doesn't inhibit other areas, or it doesn't inhibit you professionally. One of the most powerful speeches I ever heard in my career, and I've restated it multiple times in speeches I've given, is there was a woman who got up on stage at one of our meetings and to introduce a speaker herself. And she talked about women who have made it in the industry, women who are in leadership positions, and not to forget those who aren't there yet. And she called on us to hold the ladder for the others. And I thought, wow, that is a powerful visual and a powerful call to action about how we can turn around and say, hey, come along, come with me. It's one of the pieces of advice I give people. I've asked for advice a lot. Find a mentor, be a mentor. There's nothing more meaningful to your own career, and there's nothing more meaningful you can do to give back. Because if there's a project being staffed at the office, and everyone's sitting around saying, "Who should we get to work on this?" and someone in the room says your name, whether you're male or female, or new to the career or new to the business or not, that's your rung up, right? That's where your ladder is not broken, because somebody advocated on your behalf, and then being able to be that person for somebody else is hugely beneficial. When someone's saying, "Oh, we've got to staff a committee. Who should we invite to be on it?" And it might be somebody in the community, it might be somebody you didn't even know was thinking about you, but they've decided that you're somebody that they want to attach their name to and advocate for you. So hugely, hugely powerful.
That's amazing. And I think it's cool to hear the work you're doing to, like, the root of the problem is inflexibility in work. It's not that there's less women in leadership. Well, that's the problem. But what can we do to actually fix that versus just hiring more women? It's how can we provide more flexibility? That's cool. You talked about the role of mentorship and that played in your life. Is there one or two mentors that stick out personally to you that have made the biggest impact on you?
Number one is my dad. I had the great fortune of following him around for over 10 years, more than that. I often joke people ask me how long I've worked at First Supply, and I say a little over 40 years or a little over 10, depending on how you're counting. His great superpower, you think about a leader and you say, well, what was their superpower? What was it that difference in them that made them successful or someone people wanted to follow? It was his curiosity. He could walk into a room and maybe you walk into an event, you're like, gosh, there's no one here to talk to. There's nobody here that I need to network with or anything. He could find anything and anybody. And he would walk away with a nugget that would serve him somehow, some way. And maybe he may reckon back weeks later and go, I was talking to a guy and he said that this project was happening, so we should call this person. And I think we could win that project. I mean, just incredible ability to connect the dots. But it's because he had that natural tendency to be curious about anybody. And I think it ties into the education I've been talking about so much, that if we can always stay curious, there's always something to learn. I think that's just hugely powerful in no matter what business you're in. And then the other thing that's been important to me is being authentic. And that starts with yourself. You have to have great self-awareness and the ability to know yourself, know your limits, know where you can push yourself. And then you have to be able to build teams that have faith in you and want to work together, not for you or for your benefit, but together as a team. Because when things get hard, when people have faith that their team is behind them, that's when big things can happen. And then you really just have to not try to be someone else. That's the basis of authenticity, right? Is being a leader that knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, and is willing to expose them and then find tools to build upon them.
Yeah, which can be hard as a leader sometimes if you're always the person that everybody's looking up to and you got to give the perfect speech and show up every day perfect and with a great attitude. And so it certainly can be a challenge, but certainly being authentic is in the long run is going to do you more good. So
absolutely.
Cool. That's why it's powerful to have those people around you, though, like what you're saying. Like in ministry, it's called the King's Table, right? I have to, have somebody that I know has my back, unless I do something like obviously wrong where I need to be held accountable. But like if somebody just doesn't like a decision I know that this person has my back, but then you also have to have somebody that's like the visionary, like you say, I want us to do this. I want us to do this innovation. They would run through a wall for you, right? Yep, let's go. I'm trailblazing with you. I believe in it, and I'm going to blaze the trail with you. And it's so important to have those people. Otherwise, you're going to feel isolated or on the island, especially being top dog, being CEO. And so, one phrase is the King's Table, or Queen's Table in your case. Like everybody needs to have that.
And the seat at that table that I think is highly undervalued is I tell people, like, have a hype woman. Like, have somebody who, no matter what you do, they are your cheerleader. They think it's the coolest thing. I have a friend from college, and I'll post on LinkedIn, and she will just celebrate it. And she's not even in my industry, but she just is so excited, and that gives me so much confidence. It's so much like, oh, someone saw that. That's so neat. So you have to have that person that, when you said run through a wall for you, that's what made me think of that. But that person who just, but there have been times too when I've called her and said, I don't know about this. And she's, what? Doesn't matter. You can do that or don't do it. I don't care. Awesome. But just that person, when you're having a moment, that they're going to pick you back up. They're key to that table.
Well, to end us off, Katie, what legacy do you want to leave, both professionally and personally? When your time is up, what legacy do you want to leave?
This is such a difficult question because I don't know that we can dictate the legacy we leave, right? We build it every day, and everything we do, and every action we take. I think the strongest message we can send about our legacy is how we spend our time. And that goes to so much I've already talked about, and what my girls see how I'm spending my time. They see me spend a lot of time at work. They see me spend a lot of time in the community, but they see me spend a lot of time with them. And that legacy of being able to use your time as your most valuable asset. That's a pretty well-worn cliche, but it does send a message about what's meaningful to you. And again, that stewardship that is part of the core of who I am, about this great asset and legacy that I have had the benefit of inheriting, that I truly was the steward that I hope to be for that, and that I spent my time making it stronger and building it for the future.
Definitely an honorable legacy. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for being here today. Anything else on?
No, yeah, it was wonderful to hear your story and get to sit down and learn from you. So appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
LinkedIn, your regular poster on LinkedIn. So if people want to follow what you're doing there.
Absolutely. Please do. It's fun to share. It's fun to see what others are doing.
We'll attach it below.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the Pay It Forward podcast. If you want to find out more about how you can support the podcast or become a sponsor, please click the link below or visit our website, payitforwardpodcast.com. Again, thank you so much for your support, and we hope that you can find a way this week to pay it forward.